I would say you always just got to be you because when I first joined LSEG, I was the first woman in my team for a number of years. And it felt so difficult. And I remember being in the first team meeting and I was just like looking around the room, someone joining through VCs, and I was like, oh my God, there's no other woman in this team. And I went through a bit of a freak out moment where I was just like, oh my God, I cannot go through this for the next couple of years. And even sometimes I call it the sausage party. I don't mean to be rude like that, but it's honest.
Welcome to the LMF Network podcast. My name is Sonya Barlow, the host, CEO, and founder. This podcast is all about building our careers and confidence with a mission to build the careers and confidence of 25,000 people by 2025 through mentoring, masterclasses, and meaningful connections. For us, this podcast is about sharing stories, highlighting incredible figures, learning about their career journeys, how they overcome failure, rejection, and imposter syndrome, what we can do to build our confidence, be our biggest cheerleaders, and really define as well as achieve our version of success. This is a podcast where we talk to real people, ordinary people, about their extraordinary careers, how they've entered, how they've challenged themselves, how they've failed along the way, but most importantly, what you can learn about building your careers and your confidence, especially as we go into these tough times in 2023. This is actually our first live, real episode, so forgive me now if we slip up a little bit, but at the same time, it's to show that we are human and things go wrong, and that's completely fine. So what better to start? Or whom better to start with than my own friends? Then we know we can have a little bit of banter. Definitely a part of our LMF mentoring program and just the wider community. And I know that since I personally met them, I've learned so much, be that how to be more kind and respectful, all the way how to get your way and kind of fizzle your way through the client conversations. So without further ado, I'm really going to make sure that I give them the space to introduce themselves, give them the space to be their best selves and to share their advice and just see what they have brewing this year. So Michelle and Akua, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Nice to be here.
Is that it? Is that it? More energy, come on.
It's quite interesting. It's hard to live up to that, right?
Well, like, to me, no, that's the whole point. You have your own stories. Let's just be excited to share them. And remember, I'm not going to edit most of this, so that whatever you just said is going to be in this clip.
I just never realized she really liked me that much. This is the first time I realized. She's like,
I know,
I find you really inspiring. And I was like,
why?
I thought it was just the other way around. I find her really inspiring. So
no, I honestly really like people. I didn't actually like people. I run a whole community where you're meant to like people. I feel like I do like people. I'm just in my own headspace and bubble a lot of times, and I forget to reply back. So that aside, Michelle, what do you get up to?
Loads of things. I actually wear a lot of hats. Just a couple of them to mention. The ones that keep me the most busy these days. I'm a strategy lead at DXW. DXW is the leading UK SME that design, researches, builds and hosts digital public services. We work mostly with government, both central and local, and not-for-profit organizations. And in addition to that, the other thing that keeps me really busy as of recently is Extraordinary Tech Stories that I launched. And Extraordinary Tech Stories is an initiative that aspires to increase inclusion and diversity within the tech industry by sharing stories of real people. The reason why it's called Extraordinary is because every single person is an ordinary person you could meet in a daily life, but every single person has this extraordinary story. So we're hoping to share 500 of those stories just to show what it's really like to be a person in tech, break the stereotypes and biases, and inspire other people to join tech, because if we can all do it despite because of our personal and professional background, anyone can. So as you probably gathered from that, I'm also an EDI mentor, speaker, writer, and loads of other hats, but that's probably enough.
Amazing. Akua, yourself?
Hi everyone, so my name is Akua Opong and I work for the London Stock Exchange Group. Yes, financial, love it. I work there as a senior analyst. I've worked there for nearly 4 years now, but alongside my day-to-day role, I've got many hats similar to Michelle as well, from mental health champion. I'm the UK accessibility lead, part of the Women's Network, a STEM ambassador, and also I work with some of the other employee network groups as well. What I love about my role is I could get involved in various projects. So one of the key projects at the moment is in terms of getting IT equipment to different schools and non-profit organizations, and also helping quite a few charities. So every year we do quite a few charity initiatives, whether it's runs, walks, bake sales, etc. But it kind of helps me to give back, and that's an important thing. And that's also what I love about being in technology. It's not just your role, it's kind of how you give back to others. So whether it's mentoring, helping someone who might reach out to you and say, look, I want to get into this role. Can you give me some advice? Can you look over my CV? And one thing that someone said to me recently is I was really bossy and ripped up their CV. So not true. Yeah, to be honest, like I love helping the community and also helping and encouraging more women and young girls into STEM, because like I'm all for gender equality, and women make tech a better place too. Yeah, and that's it from me.
So let me get this right. In all of that, do you know what I picked up? That you took someone's CV and you ripped it up.
Well, I wouldn't quite say ripped it up, you know. That was a bit harsh for my part to do that.
Was it a really bad CV?
No, you know what? No, it wasn't. It was good, but it just needed a bit of finessing, I would say.
Okay, so on that note, what is a good CV? What can we do to finesse our CV, especially in a time where we are looking for new roles and or want to enter tech? What is your top tips?
I would say the professional summary at the start, because you really got to sell yourself. This is you putting your brand and what you do on paper. And when you, like any recruiter, hiring manager looks at the CV, that's the first bit they look at, even before they look at education and other parts you do. So if you don't sell yourself in the first 60 seconds, I would say, then you're less likely to get to next stage, because they want to also know about you. And then that's the kind of you bring to the interview stage as well. So it's really important you quick, sharp, punchy, say what you're looking for, what are your intentions, what is your purpose, what you want to get from this role.
What do you think, Michelle?
I think that the key is to stick it to 2 pages. I don't know, actually, I'm curious, how long would your CV be? Because my friends give me this argument of you don't understand in finance, like the longer your CV, the better. And they have 8 pages and I'm like, no one reads this stuff.
Who has 8 pages worth of work experience?
They're like, this is just
I'm sorry, they started when they were like 13.
No, it's just they've done so many different things. And apparently when finance sector, like it's really important to highlight all the different nitty-gritty. I don't believe that. So I stick to my 2-page CV, but I'm also not in finance, so I can't speak on that. Just having a really nice, clear visual layout really helps. Just something that's just really nice to look at. Like, you know, you look at it and it's not clunky, it's not super busy, there's not a lot of text, it's all nicely broken down. You can add a little bit of color. Like, for instance, I think my recent one has got really light gray and pink background blocks, so that it's not just a piece of white paper with a lot of text on it. And definitely using the words that you see in job advert, both in CV and cover letter. Whether that's people or machines checking it, very often they'll be looking through it very quickly and just scanning for the key piece of information. So even if you don't have all that, that's totally fine. If you meet 70 or 80%, that's plenty. But just try to use as many of the words that they're using in the job advert as possible. That's definitely helped me before.
Absolutely, yeah. LMF, one of the things that we found, and this is just research that's already widely available, is that individuals don't feel confident in themselves, in their career knowledge, and or don't have the community to really lift themselves up. That's one reason we started the mentoring program. And in extension to that, what you've just said, women generally tend to kind of swipe right or say yes when they hit anything 80 and above. Men, it's about 30 to 40.
Yeah.
And what that does is it loses you out on opportunities and examples, is even interview practice. It doesn't mean that you're not capable. It just means that any situationship that you're in is good practice for the next one. And it's a two-way relationship. I think what people forget is when you are applying for job roles, it is not you are begging them for a job. No. It is a two-way relationship. Yeah. You are going through a dating round, and then you are basically, to some extent, signing the dotted line. Yeah. And to get out that dotted line, it takes a lot of effort, time, and maybe a 1 to 3 months notice. Yeah. It's difficult, right?
Absolutely.
And so in this current climate, if we stick to CVs and jobs and careers, what do you think are the skills that people really should be thinking about and building or building on, especially in the next 1 to 3 years when the climate and economy is kind of going down, but people's ambitions are going up?
Yeah, sure. I would say
because you don't have an answer straight away. Like
I do. I tend to jump and cut people off and speak for a really long time. So I was like, I'll let you speak first before I do that.
So I would say first, let's say for instance, if you're going for a technical role, it's great to put down all the technical skills you've got there, but also it's kind of like don't put a bit of your personality out there as well. What else can you bring to it? And also, if you want to go into a leadership role, think of how do I want to be a good leader? Do you lead by example? What skills do you bring in that demonstrate leadership? Are you part of a committee, board, trustee? and how did those skills from a volunteering position maybe transfer to the workplace? Because let's say, for instance, some key leadership skills could be empathy, and don't be scared to put down certain skills and you think, oh, that makes me vulnerable. It doesn't. You look at current leaders at the moment, like Justina Ardern, for instance, from New Zealand. For instance, she always leads with empathy, and there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean she's weak, doesn't mean she's vulnerable. Look at even certain rates in New Zealand and how that country is run as a whole. It's just because of her leadership skills, and you can compare it to someone else. I won't say the T word because it's not going to cut today, but I would just say that definitely demonstrate all these, because they're professional skills that help you in the workplace, and you want to build on that. And also when you're in the workplace, if we think of mentorship, if you want to later on develop into a mentor, start kind of from now, even as a mentee, look at your mentor and think, oh, these are some of the skills I want to literally in future move to and be able to like pass on to my mentee. And I think that's really important. Yeah.
So I'm going to flip the question around to you slightly and say, Akua's covered a really good example of skills that you can develop when you're already in the workspace. But for those individuals who haven't taken a linear route, or are still in education, or just don't know what they want to do with their lives, and they're figuring it out and kind of, you know, in that transition period, what are some skills? How can you build those skills when maybe you don't have work experience? Because, you know, every job description is like, you need 3 years of work experience to have work experience. And you're like, that is the stupidest thing I've heard in life. You know, people ask me, when was your first role? I was like, when I became an elder sister. Okay, that was my first role in my life, and the most challenging. I can handle 3 other siblings, 2 parents, now some in-laws and a niece. I have it all. I've got it figured out because I come from a brown family as an elder sister. Those are the skills that I've built. But people don't recognize that those are skills that you can transfer onto your CV.
I'm a prime example of that because I came in here to do my master's. I did my bachelor degree.
Came in here like the studio?
No, in like to UK.
In the UK?
In the UK. I'm originally from Slovakia. I did my bachelor degree in Czech Republic. I came in here and I remember my friends from the same country as me, when I applied for masters, were like, how did you get in? Because we heard that's not possible unless you did bachelor degree in here with the education and so on. And my first question was like, how many subjects did you study for your bachelor degree? And they were like, oh, like 12 over 3 years. I was like, that's how many I had in one semester. I did 35 in those 3 years. So that's how I got in. Because
you had 35 what?
Subjects, like 35 different types
at university?
Yeah, within 3 years. So it's very intense. But that aside, so I think it just comes down to, I really struggled because when I graduated, I had a master from King's College. I spoke 5 languages. I wanted to work in international development, and I ended up working in Ralph Lauren as a sales associate and then operations lead while doing unpaid internship. It was great. I shopped so many clothes. But besides that, it was really difficult because exactly that. I didn't study here for 3 years. I didn't do loads of unpaid internships because I couldn't afford to do that. I had to have a paid job and do that on my free time whenever I could, especially because in international development, most work experience is unpaid. So I ended up very often working 70 hours a week, 50 hours in my paid job, the other 20 on my days off to do internships. But I don't think it has to be that extreme. I think I'm quite an extreme example, but everyone can get experience from anywhere. A lot of my job experience came from working in my brother's archaeological company where I was cleaning human bones and excavation with a toothbrush, but also doing admin work.
You have some wild stories. I'm sorry, let's just stop.
Do I slide away towards
I was like, I don't know what to do.
Probably the weirdest job I've ever had.
Your stories are wild. I'm expecting us to have like some linear story.
No, sorry.
Graph, and it just keeps. It's great. It just means that you can bring that energy to the system. Yeah. I'm gonna be devil's advocate here and say that I know both of you personally, at least to some extent. Turns out we're not actually friends, but that's we'll get to that afterwards.
We are. I just didn't realize you liked me.
Right, I probably need to work.
I have a lot of friends who don't like me. It's okay.
I probably have to work on that. Keep me accountable. But I guess my point being is we have a lot of energy. We are personalities. I don't deny it. But when I went into the workspace, I found that I started to mute my personality to conform to other people, to conform to the workspace. And then that was before you had TikTok and really before you had Instagram, and LinkedIn was like the main deal. And now you go on like TikTok and Instagram as 2 examples, and they're like day in the life of you can do this, you can do that. I'm like, when do you have time to record all of this? Because when I was working, it was intense. Yeah,
it's a full-time job.
And you get burnt out really quickly and you have to manage your own stress, and you don't really know the good, the bad, and the balance, right? And so a lot of young professionals right now are worried about that. 75% of individuals are happy to take a pay cut if they're aligned to a business in which they are focused on people, planet, or purpose. Outside of that, more than 80% actually want to think about the business and their values and how they manage, balance, work-life kind of, situations and remote working before they go into that job role.
Yeah.
But then you have companies who are like, work 5 days a week again from the office, or we don't do remote working. I guess my point being is, how do you actually show up in the workspace with that energy, with that personality, when you're already battling being a woman and a woman of different background and intersectional different kind of identities in which you hold, plus the fact that there's really only 15% of us in tech and even less in other industries. How do you show up on your CV, in the workspace, with your colleagues without being Marmite?
Yeah. There's two parts of that for me. The first one is around your background and who you are as a person. I'll come back to that in a second. But the other one is around, it's about working smarter, not harder. And I think you need to balance out your passion and your wanting to work on different projects with balancing out how many opportunities you can showcase. It would be really nice and easy to do an internship for a year for one organization, but realistically, it's one client or one organization, one company, one type of experience. I think it's good to spice it up and balance it out. You can go and volunteer somewhere for 3 hours. That's one organization right there. I volunteered in one of the charity shops. You can go and help host an event or run something for someone for a day. You can join a mentoring program. You can become a mentee or a mentor. It's all these different experiences that don't have to cost you money and don't have to take a long time to take part in. It's good to have long-term experience as well and do internships and so on, but it's good to like mix it up with doing things that don't take too much of your time, but add a variety of different organizations, experiences, roles. And it also allows you to try out different things, right? Like we very often don't know what we like until we try it out. I started in international development, I work in tech. It's a completely different field. And I thought, you know what, I will work for UNICEF for the rest of my life. And here I am doing something completely different, but yet it's still focused on helping people, which is what I wanted to do. Coming back to the point around who you are. Another funny story. When I worked in a shop, I befriended one of my colleagues and we became very close friends. And I remember we went for a meal and she was saying to me like, oh, I didn't really like you at the first. And I was like, okay, I noticed, but like, why? I just kind of left you your space. She was like, I found you really rude. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, you were just like really direct. You would say whatever you thought and it came out across quite violently and everything.
Violently.
And I just thought you were very dynamic and very rude. And she was like, and then I got to know you and I really liked you. And I was like, okay, I don't get that, but fine. And then I remember working in another store with my colleagues who were Russian. And they were way more direct than people from Slovakia, way more to the point, way more into it. And I just caught myself thinking to myself, like, right, so this is how she felt about me. When someone turned to me and was even more direct than me and even more to the point and even more dynamic, I realized, right, so this is how people feel about me. And I had no idea before that. Like I had to really tone my personality down when I moved to UK because I came from completely different cultural background. And because I'm white, it's very easy to assume like, oh, I grew up in the UK, people don't know where I'm from. It's very easy to assume that, you know, I should conform to the standard ways of behaving. And yeah, that was everywhere from like being very calm and polite in Tesco and not getting very like passionate with the shopping assistants and everyone whenever something was going wrong. I really had to tone it down in personal and professional space. And now I'm doing the flip side, trying to help people not do that and think about, you know what, you don't need to become someone else. It's more about learning about yourself, who you are, and communicating to other people because most people just don't know what it's like to be you and your experiences. And it's talking about that helps. So rather than focusing on changing myself now, if I could go back, I would probably tell myself, get to know yourself better, tell other people and listen to why you're different and how you can work together.
I love that. And Akua, what about yourself? An extension to the question. So the question was, how do you show up? The question was, how do you show up as that vibrant, audacious personality, whatever that means for you? You could be quietly confident, you could be loudly confident, you could be, you know, outspoken, you could wear bright colors, you can be muted, but it's your version of you. How do you show up when, and I say this with all due respect because you talk about it so often and openly, when you have a neurodiversity, when you are of different heritage, when you don't look like the norm, how do you go into spaces and still be yourself whilst playing the game that is work? Because it is a game. You just don't get taught the rules, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would say you always just got to be you because when I first joined LSEG, I was the first woman in my team for a number of years. And it felt so difficult. And I remember being in the first team meeting and I was just like looking around the room, someone joining through VCs, and I was like, oh my God, there's another woman in this team. And I went through a bit of a freak out moment where I was just like, oh my God, I cannot go through this for the next couple of years. And even sometimes I call it the sausage party. I don't mean to be rude like that, but it's honest truth. And I used to even send around gifs of like a sausage dancing because I was just kind of like, we're not gonna do this for the next couple of years. And I remember speaking to my manager and senior people saying, look, we need to change the dynamics because when you have people from diverse backgrounds, different genders, etc., they bring different opinions. And so you get different perspectives from those individuals. And also because like I found that just before I started working there, I had Crohn's disease. It's a hidden disability. And for me, I had to navigate taking medication. Days I'm not going to be so upbeat because I'm on medication. And then less than 2 years ago, I found out I was neurodiverse. I've got dyslexia and ADHD. And in terms of that, it affects kind of like how I am in the workplace. Some days I could be quiet. Some days I'm just going to walk around with headphones. It's not me kind of shutting everyone off or being kind of, I just want sometimes space to do focus work and things like that. And I've also explained it to my team. I'm like, sometimes I'm going to be this person, but I'm like, don't take, because the thing is, once you're honest about it to your team, your managers, people around you, they'll understand it. Some people don't, but it's not your problem. It's theirs. And why I say that is because if you've explained something to your blue in the face or whatever, and someone doesn't want to understand or gain that level of understanding, that's on them, because as human beings, we all got to show some level of empathy, right? So at the end of the day, it's kind of like you can explain something to someone, they don't want to hear it, it's up to them. Don't let it reflect on you and don't change who you are because of other people. Always, I would say, block out the noise. When someone says you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that, that's just noise. Remember kind of why you're there in the first place. And there's like this Japanese concept, the Ikigai, where it talks about your purpose, your why. You break that down into what you like doing for career, your hobbies, interests, things that make you. And that's why I always would say block out the noise, because some people there are distractors around you. Absolutely. And some people sometimes don't want you to succeed. And it's not you, it's them. So just think of being the best person you can be. And remember, there's other people out there that genuinely like you and things like that. So,
or at least think that we like you.
Think that we like you.
We probably, I think it's a you problem, the fact that you don't think I like you.
I know. Now I'm not
so because of that, just
But I think one thing you said, and I just want to touch base, so I too am on the neurodiverse spectrum, but I maybe don't talk about it as openly or as often because, and to your point, it's one thing is about them accepting, another point is about you actually accepting yourself. When I was in the workspace, I went in, I muted myself, I felt like a complete imposter. I speak about this all the time. And then when I started to find my identity, that's actually how LMF started. We started as a brunch club in 2018, like wild, right? Avocado and toast has now turned into a podcast. Like that's our storyline. One day I'll have a book that says brunch to business, but we'll get there. The point being, I guess, is you have to take a bet on yourself. And so when I was in the workspace and I was navigating all of these different things that were happening to me, be my identity, be my neurodiversity, be my kind of progression within the workspace, because I hadn't taken the time to really discover myself and I was trying to run in this rat race, especially in London. I don't know what we're all running for.
So tiring.
It's so tiring. You're so tired all the time. But to that point, you thought it was okay to be tired. You were like, everyone's tired. I must be tired too. No one takes holidays. I don't need to take holidays as well. Oh, they all have Tesco meal deal for lunch. I should have Tesco meal deal too because you want to be a part of the pack, right? No one's talking about neurodiversity or your different identities or kind of different intersectional spectrums. So I knew that when I was in the workspace, I didn't want to be the first one to say, this is what I have, because I don't know what I have because I'm trying to figure it out. And then you get burdened with them. Then you get burdened having to explain to other people. And you're like, hold on. I'm trying to understand me and manage my time and my effort and look after me because you have to look after yourself first. And I come from a South Asian family, right? So I give you a really good example. There's the analogy when you go on the plane and they're telling you, in case of emergency, put your own mask on first before somebody else's. I've grown up with a lot of elders being like, no, make sure you put on your siblings' masks first before you put on your own. And I always do that for my siblings. Absolutely, right? And That's me being really honest. However, I understand the concept of make sure that you have filled your tank before you go and try and fill other people's tank.
Yeah.
And I think as women, and especially women of diverse backgrounds, the global majority, the global minority, whatever we try and claim nowadays, right? Because they're all buzzwords that other people are putting on you, not the ones that you put on yourself. We do a lot to fill other people's cup. So I guess my point being is appreciate yourself first. You spoke about empathy, both of you. Have empathy with yourself first. And if you don't understand something, go and do your research. Take your time. Go and explore those conversations, but define your ways of working. So a really good example is with my team now, I will say, if you're going to put a meeting with me, please have an agenda. I genuinely am really terrible at emails and admin. So I have someone not only supporting me, but I have an out of office on automatically says, I will get back to you in 72 hours. But all my major clients and individuals I talk to have my WhatsApp. I know I voice note you all. I know I message you all, and then I forget about it. And then I'll come back one day and I'm like,
a month later,
I'm so sorry. I think I was meant to message you, but I didn't. But you're always in my mind.
Yeah.
I remember things that you say. So it's like using your strengths and your skill sets, but informing people to say, listen, it's not you, it's me. I'm working on this. I need a little bit of time. This is how you can help me work on that. But even starting conversations with, are you in the right headspace to have this conversation?
Yeah.
Are you in the right headspace for me to actually talk to you about something serious for 15 minutes? Going to your seniors, your managers, your colleagues and saying, I need to disclose this to you, but this is the problem or kind of the situation I'm going through. These are my proposed solutions. This is what you can do to help me. Going with answers and being like initiative takers is so important.
Yeah.
And I think what you were raised about mentors and mentees and being in that situationship, fundamentally a mentor and mentee relationship is two or more people coming together to share experiences, to learn from one another. And of course, the LMF mentoring program has a 98% success rate in our matching. That's wild. I don't even know that numbers like that could exist, but that's because we do blind matching. We don't match you on you're a woman, you're a man, you're going to be matched together, or you're brown and you're brown, we're going to do that. We match you on this is the skills that you want to learn. This is what you can give. This is how much experience you've had. This is how much time you have. Let's match you and let's take you through. There's clear goals. There's clear focus. There's training to be mentors and mentees. And most importantly, you're building your confidence. You're building your careers. So of course, that's one angle that you can go down, which I'm obviously going to plug because I founded it, right? So genuinely.
Promo.
No
one's going to promote you as well as yourself, right?
And I know one promos me as well as I promote myself. If you know me, you already know that by now. I am my biggest cheerleader and my biggest mascot. Because in the beginning, no one is going to be your cheerleader. They're going to knock you down. And as you get progressively into something, you've spoken about this, there will be haters. You have to block out that noise. They're not the people you're serving, and that's fine. But I guess my point being is, when and how did you find your first ever mentor? And my secondary question is, was it formalized? Because I have a bunch of people who are my mentors that I've never formally been like, you're my mentor, and you're my mentor, and you're my mentor, and you're my mentor. I just message them every 3 months. I'm like, lunch. Let's have a chat. What do you want to chat about? This is the agenda, and you move forward. So we've never formalized it, but they do exist.
Yeah.
How did you find your first informal or formal mentor?
I'll come back to the self-promo. I actually really like you champion yourself so much because it's really inspiring. I tell myself whenever I'm like really shy about something, I'm like, I need to be more like Sonya. So I think it's not just about self-promo, it's about how it inspires others.
Thank you.
Talking about mentors, I don't think I'm a very good example because I have career hopped so much. I have gone from international development.
What does that mean
everywhere.
for anyone who doesn't know?
I don't even know if it's a term, I'm just saying that. I have hopped across different industry sectors. Like I tried something, I thought this was going to be it for me forever. Then I realized it's not. Then I just quit my job, ended up unemployed for 5 months, decided to be a wellness influencer, which I never did because I hate taking pictures of myself. So that was a bit of a fail. And then I realized I don't have any money anymore. I need to apply for jobs. And then I ended up in tech. So it was just a wild journey.
And I'm gonna just ask you really quickly, what skills did you transfer when you did that? When you hopped on over, what skills are you constantly hopping with?
It was always being centered around managing projects. So something around being organized, having attention to detail, solving people's problems. That's literally what I do almost all the time. Solving
Attention to
people's
detail and
problems.
organize is completely what I can't do.
And being creative, right? Like when we were talking about the CVs, I think the best thing you can do is think of it this way. You're going to have a job description. There's going to be so many people applying for it. And it's very likely majority of them will have more experience than you, right? For any job that you apply, you know, you might tick all the boxes and you might have 5 years of project management experience. There'll be someone with 10. So the way to stand out is be unique. What makes you you? Because no one is like me, no one is like you. Everyone has different experiences, and you always bring something else from your personal background, professional, volunteering, whatever, your own skills, your own experience. And it's always about how you frame it, right? So for me, it was just around having those transferable skills. But I think one thing that stood out, actually, I've been wild card for majority of the roles I apply for. I always befriend my managers, and then they tell me about how they hired me. And they were all like, yeah, we have given up on hiring anyone at this point. And then you showed up, and then we were a bit like, okay, she's a bit like off the grid and she's a bit strange, but she doesn't have the experience we're looking for, but let's give it a go. And I actually had people just going for the fact that I wasn't like the typical candidates, being like, right, so if she's already sector hopped so many times and done so many different roles, it means she can pick up different things, which means she learns quickly, right?
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that the skills that you're taking with you is adaptability, is that you have great communication skills, is that you are finding elements in which you connect with individuals and making that your core base, is that you are giving anything and everything a go until you fully figure out what it is that you want to do, and that you are open to taking risk and failure.
Yeah, 100%. But I also feel like we've often hyped people up around like, you have to go for it and you have to push yourself. And I do that, right? Like public speaking terrifies me, but here I am. I know I don't like it that much. Actually, I like talking, but it intimidates me, but I still do it. I show up. I know I'm going to be probably like worried about it, but I'll still do it. So I think very often, for instance, with launching my blog, for a long time, I knew I wanted to do something like that. But it took time. It took seeing other people. And even now, like I could be really going out there and promoting and doing all these things and having quite a wild strategy, but it just doesn't feel comfortable. I'm doing it at my own pace because as I go, it builds up my self-confidence, and it's okay. Like maybe I could be further down the line, but I'm doing it at a pace where I feel okay. So I think there's a careful balance between stepping out of your comfort zone enough to progress, but not do it in a point where you scare yourself out so much you'll pull back and never go there. So it's a balance between the two.
And so on that note, when we talk about mentorship or menteeship, would you say that therefore your mentors are maybe your managers or those that have taken you into the business?
Yeah, it's really difficult to have a mentor when you don't have a career path that's quite like, where are you progressing? You're going towards one direction. I try loads of different things, so it's difficult to have someone. And usually, I actually really want to explore more the part of being mentored. I've always been more of a mentor. Because
so you were a mentor on the LMF program.
Yes.
What did you teach somebody?
I think it was just having conversations about career. It was usually them telling me about, oh, so I'm in this role, but I'd like to go in this and I'm thinking about that. And it was just giving advice and access to people, like linking them to my network, telling them about different opportunities there might be, and helping them think outside of the box. Because sometimes when you're in your own little space, it's difficult to think of other things. So it's been really useful to just have a conversation and say, here's what I would be doing in your situation. Even if it's in a completely different industry and I can't really relate to it, if I was in your situation, this is what I would do. And that's been quite helpful to people.
And Akua, what about yourself?
I'd say my first mentor was actually at LSEG. And it was this incredible lady who's based in the US. Oh my God, like we was kind of in sync. It was really bizarre. Like I could send her an email about something and we'll both be thinking about it and gonna email each other. And we actually had a conversation over Christmas and was just catching up. And yeah, she's phenomenal because she just taught me about empathy as well and how to display it to other people. And sometimes she was just like, just don't rush things. She was just like, just have that patience. Because sometimes like, you could be a person that's a bit of a go-getter, that kind of person, and you want everything done like today. Not everything can be done today. There's restrictions, there's budgets, there's schedules and everything, and you've got to make sure everything's at the right time and at the right pace. So she taught me a lot about just having that level of empathy, patience, and she was just like, whatever you want to do, you can do it. Just believe in yourself and also be willing to take like the rough and the smooth. It's like peanut butter, right? And it's kind of like things happen. Sometimes there's obstacles in the way. You can't always control outside things. So just kind of like trust in the system and believe. And then when I did the LMF mentoring program, again, I had a phenomenal mentor because she worked more in the charity sector. She did a radio show and she was unbelievable as well, where we just had such a vibe. And sometimes like we'll get off the court and we'll both kind of like be laughing about something, smiling about something and message each other. So when you find a mentor where you bounce off each other and it works, it just works. and you get so much benefit out of it. And one thing I'd say is, even when you're starting a mentoring program, in the early stages, if you feel like you and your mentor, just something's not right or something's not working, just be honest about it. Because sometimes that does happen, where that mentor you get matched with, it might not always click first and foremost, but also persevere a bit, like give it a couple of weeks, give it maybe a month or so, and then see, okay, like, is this going to work? You have to be honest and have a conversation. Don't leave it as like you just say, right, that's it, the program's done. Have a conversation, be like, this is not working, this time is not working.
Absolutely.
Can we change things up?
Yeah, and we're quite proud in that sense that we do mentor matching. So in all our programs, we do give you a time period to say, if you're not feeling the vibe, if you don't think there's a connection, if someone's ghosting you even, or if you don't think your goals are aligned, let us know and we'll rematch, because everyone's goals and strategies change. And what we found is 6 months was too long of a period. 3 months is like a sweet spot. We're trying 4 weeks now, because seasonally you change. Your goals change, your mindset change, things impact you. So my final question to both of you, and thank you so much for coming, if I haven't already said that. This is the first episode, and I actually think it's been actually amazing. And obviously I'm going to toot my own trumpet, but that is just me. My last question to both of you is, something I talk really openly about is having purpose and power. So I want to know, and normally when I think about power, it's what is that skill, that strength, that one thing that makes you you? What is your power? What is that one skill, that one strength that makes you you, which is what we've been talking about today? What is your power? And I want you to say it to the screen. I want you to own it. Like, my power is my energy. And believe me, I have a lot of it. But I've started thinking that actually when people are like, you're so energetic, I was like, oh, I don't want to be, I'm so sorry. Now I'm like, no, I have a lot of energy. That is my asset. That is my power. How I use that, that's different, but that is my power. It is my energy. What about yourselves?
It's a tough question. It's a tough question. I'm thinking, I looked at the screen where I'm still thinking, so it'll be just me really staring in the screen while I'm thinking very intently. Do you want to go? Do you have one while I think?
I would say perseverance.
Say that again without your hand there.
Sorry.
I want your shoulders rolled back. I want you at the screen.
Tough crowd. I would say perseverance. At work, I'm known to just knock on the doors. If someone says no, I'll go to someone else until I get yes. Not all times I'll get a yes, but you know what? I'm still banging at your door. I was told the other day, and even someone said this to a charity partner, the person was like, she did not let me sleep. She kept emailing. She kept going, come and get on a call about this and that. And I was just like, yeah, I was coming knocking at your door every day until you said yes. And perseverance.
I am going to take that away. And Elsa, be careful that when I get money, I'm going to take her too. And that's fine.
It's tough to pick one thing, but I think if I had to pick one, it would probably be being able to connect to people. And the reason why I say that is I've actually been told, I might explore this as an alternative career path in future, is I'm an ideal person to invite to a wedding, because you always have this like one relative no one wants to speak to, right? I always find something to talk to people about. Honestly, it can be whoever, whatever age, gender, race, ethnic, any background. I will find something to like. I remember, you probably know Karimi because we were talking about our networks. I remember when I was like started and she was like a little bit reserved. She was our HR person when I joined the job. Within 5 minutes, we were exchanging how great it was when I was in Kenya, because she was from Kenya. She was telling me about Nairobi. Like, I just find that one thing that people like and care about, and just something like a common ground to build a relationship from. I think it's very easy to be reserved if people are different, but if you find that one thing they want to talk about, that one thing you can connect with, it immediately, you can actually see how much people change. Like their body posture changes, their facial expressions change when they feel like there's something to talk about. So I would probably say it's that. And it comes back to the empathy, right? Like I can relate to how people, I can read.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being in our first episode. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I had a blast. Seriously.
You had no idea what you're in for. Nope. I messaged them a few days ago. I was like, FYI, we're doing this podcast. I'd love for you to come through. And they didn't know they were going to do it together either. But that is the fun.
Or that we knew each other.
Or that you knew each other, but we'll save that for another day. There is a video on that somewhere on Instagram.
Never to be published.
But really, in episode number 1, which is wild, we've spoken about skills, careers, career hopping, building your muscles, failing fast, being kind to yourself, embracing your authentic self, showing up as the best version possible, and identifying your power. And most importantly, because we are the LMF network, finding your mentor or becoming a mentee to really level up your career and your confidence. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, for being involved. I really hope that we're adding value, and if we are, just remember to like, share, subscribe, and tell a friend. If you would like to be on this podcast, drop me a line, hello@lmfnetwork.com, and remember to sign up for all of our programs and activities, www.lmfnetwork.com. My name is Sonya Barlow, this is the LMF Network, these are our amazing friends, and we have had just the best vibe tonight. Today, even whenever you're watching, I don't know where you are. And stay tuned for the next one.
You can learn more about the podcast, get involved and listen via our website, www.lmfnetwork.com. You can follow us across all socials at LMF Network. Remember to like, subscribe, share and tell a friend. Get involved and drop us your comments or questions so that we can make sure that it's really adding value to your lives.